Does anyone believe that ignoring a ticking time bomb is a good strategy? Apparently, that's the view of most of the Washington, D.C. establishment regarding the U.S. national debt. Hi, I'm Rex Rogers, and this is episode number 258 of Discerning What is Best, a podcast applying unchanging biblical principles in a rapidly changing world and a Christian worldview to current issues in everyday life. The USA is responsible for a national debt now surpassing $39 trillion and growing. President Donald J. Trump has spoken often about lowering the national debt and reducing the size of the federal government, and he has launched administrative initiatives to do both. Remember the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, a Trump administration initiative. DOGE was officially established by an executive order January 20, 2025. Cutting excess regulations and spending within the federal government is its primary objective. Proponents of DOGE have described it as a project to make the government smaller and more efficient by cutting government spending and downsizing the federal workforce. About 300,000 United States federal civil service layoffs have been announced by the second Trump administration, almost all of them attributed to the Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE claims that it has thus far saved the American taxpayer about $215 billion, or $1,335.40 per taxpayer. Then there's that pesky fraud thing. According to the Government Accountability Office, GAO, the federal government loses between $233 billion and $521 billion annually to fraud in improper payments. Medicare and Medicaid account for more than half, 53%, of the fraudulent losses. Now, to say the least, an almost $300 billion range is a rather broadly defined estimate. Yet for all the Trump administration's efforts, in 2017, when Trump administration 1 took office, the national debt was $19.9 trillion. And when he departed office in 2021, the national debt was $27.75 trillion. An increase of $7.85 trillion. When Mr. Trump took office for Trump administration 2 in 2025, the national debt was $37.1 trillion, and it now stands at $39.9 trillion, an increase of $2.8 trillion. So for whatever work the Trump administration has accomplished vis-a-vis debt, the federal government is a vast money transfer machine. It spends hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars each year on subsidy programs, from the massive Medicare to hundreds of more obscure programs that most people have never heard of. There are more than 1,800 federal subsidy programs. The Government Accountability Office estimates that there are about $17 billion of improper Medicare payments each year, including fraudulent and erroneous overpayments to healthcare providers. Abuses do not just stem from occasional overbillings by doctors, but involves organized looting of healthcare programs by criminals. The GAO puts the cost of improper Medicaid payments at $33 billion, or about 10.5% of the program's total spending. All kinds of people are using the federal budget as a cookie jar to garner benefits to which they're not entitled. Families seek improper benefits through subsidies such as the school lunch program. Hospitals rip off taxpayers by double billing Medicare and Medicaid. Criminals loot subsidy programs such as food stamps. Owners of nonprofit groups that are supposed to aid the needy line their own pockets with taxpayer funds. Fraud and abuse generate a catch-22 for policymakers who support spending programs. On the one hand, fraud is clearly a waste of money and should be stopped. On the other hand, minimizing fraud requires extensive bureaucratic rules and heavy enforcement. The total national debt has grown by $86,271.01 per second for the past year. Now, point of interest. The United States has been completely debt-free exactly once in its history. In January 1835, under President Andrew Jackson. Jackson vetoed spending bill, refused to renew the charter of the Second Bank of the United States, and aggressively sold federal lands to raise revenue. By January 1835, he had paid off the entire balance of approximately $33 million, making the U.S. the only major nation in history to achieve zero federal debt. The debt-free period lasted only about 1 year. The Panic of 1837, triggered by speculative lending and Jackson's own banking policies, plunged the country into a severe recession. The government was forced to borrow again, and the national debt has grown continuously ever since. Now, there are many reasons national debt and annual budget deficits are bad for the country. Among them, interest costs are growing rapidly. Key investments in our future are at risk. Rising debt means fewer economic opportunities for Americans, less flexibility to respond to crises. The good news is there are many solutions for resolving the debt problem. The bad news is all the proposed solutions involve getting politicians to agree and to act. As of April 2026, interest payments on the national debt account for approximately 17% of total federal spending for the fiscal year. These costs reached $623 billion by March 2026, with interest expenses becoming one of the fastest-growing major components of the federal budget. Now, to state the obvious, this is unsustainable. We either deal with this now or we will reap the negative results later. There's no happy ending of the story that begins with us kicking the can down the road. And here's another scary note. The recent interaction of the USA and NATO countries regarding the Iran war should tell us something. If America's finances collapse under the weight of overwhelming unsustainable debt, no one will come to our aid. No one will bail us out. Yes, it is true that when Greece got upside down financially in 2010, eventually a few European Union countries provided aid packages, and today Greece has finally gotten back to some economic equilibrium. If the U.S. goes under financially, it's another story, partly due to size and money, but also due, among our allies, likely disinterest in helping us. Again, look what happened when we called for support against the terrorist regime of Iran. Unsustainable debt has historically been one of the key factors bringing down empires and great countries. The Ottoman Empire, the Russian Empire, the Spanish empires all buckled due to massive financial strain. Sooner than any of the political leaders of empire thought, the empire declined and disappeared. It's not melodramatic or ahistorical to say that the USA is not invulnerable. Today we are blessed with better food, health, and medical resources. We are blessed with longer lifespans. So we are living longer than FDR and company foresaw when they set up the Social Security program in the late 1930s, and longer with more people than LBJ and company foresaw when they set up Medicare and Medicaid in the 1960s. These three so-called entitlement programs are predicted to fail financially in 2032 to 2033. But our politicians are whistling in the graveyard. Another thing, debt is not just a financial issue. It's a moral one. Debt means loss of freedom and autonomy. From a Christian perspective, debt must be repaid. Debt should not be incurred in a manner that presumptuously passes the problem to the next generation. Failure to repay is considered stealing. Debt symbolizes a lack of contentment. Interest on debt is a waste of resources. And ignoring debt is dangerous. We are to leave something for our children. The U.S. national debt is in one sense not yours or mine to control, but in another sense it may be, for we are still a government of, by, and for the people. We can let our representatives know that in our view, debt matters, and we'd rather not wait for a crisis like a stock market crash, depression, insolvency, bankruptcy, foreclosures, financial collapse, or financial ruin. Well, we'll see you again soon. This podcast is about discerning what is best. If you find this thought-provoking and helpful, follow us on your favorite podcast platform. And for more Christian commentaries, see my website, REXM, as in Martin. It's rexmrogers.com. Or check my YouTube channel at Dr. Rex Rogers. And remember, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm.